Do you remember how far you're going to travel?
1,000 miles.
1,000 miles. So it's going to be a tough trip. I have been doing histories of my families, my ancestors, and I have found some very interesting stories of their struggles as they came across the plains and the mountains to get into the Utah Valley. And so I have a great appreciation for these people that otherwise I probably wouldn't be in this valley. Okay, one of the first things that we want to talk about is when you're getting ready to go, you have to be prepared. This isn't something you can just jump in your wagon and take off. You've got to prepare in many, many ways. A man by the name of William Clayton wrote a book. And in this book, he put a bill of particulars. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, in this bill of particulars, this is basically what you're going to need to make this trip across the plains to the west. First thing you're going to need is either a good strong wagon, or later on they used handcarts, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. Then you've got to have 2 or 3 good yoke of oxen. Now a yoke, this is a yoke, right? How many parts?
2.
So a yoke of oxen would be how many oxen?
2.
2 oxen. 2 oxen. You should have 2 or 3 yokes, so
Could have.
several would have, the more that you have, the better it goes. Okay, we have our choice. We could take horses or we could take oxen.
Oxen.
Why oxen?
Because they're stronger.
They're stronger.
They could go for a long time without food.
Okay, their food is a little bit different than horses have.
If they got shot by an arrow, they would die.
That's debatable. We'd have
to.
to debate on that because that's a possibility. They could die. But horses had to have a special kind of feed, and they didn't have that feed all the way across the plains. There were many times that it was scarce. When they get in muddy places, oxen have a split hoof, and so they're able to make it through the mud a lot easier than horses do. Okay, notice that the best age is between 4 and 10 years, so you want them quite young so that they're strong and they can endure 1 or more good beefs. Now, as they came west, when they very first came, and the accounts that I have read, the companies have brought upwards of 100 cattle per company, hoping that they're not going to have to kill off too many of them until they get through the valley, because they will be their milk cows and they will be their beef that they will be able to eat on. Okay. I also found out when they got into a certain area in Wyoming, they came across a lot of alkali. And the animals would start eating the alkali and it'd make them very sick, and lots of times they lost the animals that way. One that I just finished reading about, they got to Green River and they had to stop because they did not have enough oxen to pull the wagons into the valley. They had to send down to the valley and have some more teamsters come back, bringing more oxen for them to make it into the valley. You should have sheep, 1,000 pounds of flour or other bread stuffs. And then all of these things are things that you're going to use throughout your time in the valley until new shipments can be made. Remember, there are no stores in the Utah area, so you can't just run to the store when you need cinnamon or when you need sugar, okay? These things are very, very important. A good musket or a rifle, 1 pound of powder, 4 pounds of lead, and that's to use with your rifle. Tea, coffee, sugar, cayenne pepper, black. Most of the time, this tea and coffee, they used that very early on until later on when they did not. And then for each of these things, you need your farming, your nails, everything that you're going to need as you farm. Well, this was the bill of particulars.
What is the 1DO period for? Is it
That means
dozen?
ditto.
Ditto?
Uh-huh. Pounds.
Oh. Okay, that's
1
interesting.
pound
That's how
of
they
tea,
did that?
5 pounds of coffee.
Okay,
So just ditto.
thanks.
I guess they hadn't learned those little marks yet.
No, they
so-
had their own.
Yes.
What is black dough?
What is black? Okay, that stands for 2 pounds of black pepper.
Oh.
Okay? All right. Also in his immigrant's guide, he left them a fantastic thing that would help them as they made it across the plains. One of the important things that he wanted them to know is where the good camping places were. And those good camping places, he was able to write it into a book. As they came west, he kept very accurate notes of where they stopped, where they camped, where the good camping places were, where the bad ones were. Oftentimes they would leave a pile of rocks or whatever so that they would know that that was a good camping area. But he let them know where the best places were. Now, as you are outfitting for your trip west, you're going to use a wagon. This is not a Conestoga wagon. Conestoga was the one with the big, okay, thank you. Conestoga wagons was the one was bigger and higher, had the big seat. This is made so that when you get into the valley, this wagon, for a while, is going to be your cupboard or your storage place. And they're probably going to use the wagon to go up into the mountainside to gather logs, and they can put those logs in here. That will help to bring them, okay? And you can see here it's just a wagon box, okay? Now, one of the important things that they're going to need as they come west is a lot of good rope, because every night they're going to have to halter their animals or tie them up in some way so that they don't take off and get lost, okay? Now, in 1856, they found that there were more and more people wanting to come west, and it was very important that they get these people west. They had taken all of their life savings. They'd worked so hard to get across the ocean to get to America, and so they started using handcarts. These handcarts looked a lot like this one, okay? Now the difference between this and this, 1,500 pounds. Do you remember how many pounds you could carry on the handcart?
200 to 300.
200 to 300 pounds. That means you as a child would be allowed 10 pounds of clothing. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? When you stop and think that a gallon of milk weighs about 10 pounds, that's not very much, is it? And then adults, we get a little more because our bodies are a little bigger, so we would get to carry 17 pounds. But the hand carts, they were able to move quickly as they came west. Couldn't carry as much, but it got them to the valley to where they wanted to be. Okay, we want to talk for just a minute about this instrument. When the very first group came out west, William Clayton's job was to keep track of the mileage, and remember he wrote in this guide so that he would be able to tell them where the best stopping places were. Well, originally, you notice here on the wheel, the red tie, okay, his job, as he would come across, his job was to, he was in Heber C. Kimball's wagon, and the wagon wheels were exactly 4 foot 8 inches, which meant once it had gone around 360 times, that was a mile. Can you imagine being assigned to watch that wheel go around 360 times and say, okay, that's a mile? Well, that didn't work very well, and so he got together with Harmon Appleton and Orson Pratt. Orson Pratt designed what it would look like, and then it was carved, and this is set up so that this goes on the axle, okay, and as it goes around, These are gonna go so that once you've done 1 mile, and then this bigger one is for 10 miles, so that they were able to keep track. And they were within 12 miles of accuracy. So that was a pretty good machine. This is an odometer. Your parents have an odometer on the car, but these are the things that they needed that were very important. Okay, quickly. Have I got time?
I'll help you.
Okay. If you were going in a wagon, this is about how much space you would have in the wagon. Okay? Did everyone get to ride in the wagon? No. Carried most of their things in the wagon. The only people that could ride in the wagon were those that were sick, or if a mother had a new child, she would get to ride in the wagon for a little while. And it was very joggly. Okay, would you hold this for me? Now, let's look at a hand cart, the size of a hand cart.
That's my
Time.
timer going off.
Okay, this is the size of the hand cart. Can you see the difference between the two?
Mama.
That's how much space you have to work. So, hand carts were much, much smaller, but you could get there faster. So, okay, thank you.